In this lecture, we try to make it like a story. And this story starts in the early 90s in Berlin. As I said before, I was born in Rome, and as I was 20 years old, I was really pissed off of living in my own town, and I was thinking about going somewhere else. My aims were between Barcelona and London, but then the wall fell down and something changed in my life. So by circumstances, I arrived in Sighișoara in Romania. From there, I traveled to the former Yugoslavia by train, came back home, and I had only one dream: go somewhere else. And I ended up in Berlin. Berlin was, at that time, quite a strange place, because you have to understand that the state collapsed, and the new state needed time to take the control over the state. So you had a real time of anarchy, where everything was possible, and the city itself was a kind of kindergarten for all of us. And this kindergarten, we had different spots that were left like this after the war. So you had an amazing amount of public space. And all the houses, especially in the central part of Berlin, Berlin Mitte, were empty. And since the owner was the state and the new owner were the old ones, there was a lack of property, and the only way to get those apartments was to squat them. And this was first a very positive thing. The other positive thing is that people were really excited about this situation, and they used this squatty space to have many different kind of experiences that were based on community or experiments or whatever. The only thing was that you never knew how long you could stay there. So at that time I was studying architecture at a technical university, and I think that the most interesting thing was this kind of mixed up society where everything was extremely temporary, and you could have the so-called perception of illusion. After a time, after let's say a couple of years, I finished my study. The economic situation in Berlin was not the best at the end of the 90s, beginning of 2000, but still you had a lot of space, which was not for free anymore, but together with some friends we rented this factory for more or less 350 euros a month. The only problem was that it had no windows, no water, no electricity. It was just huge. And this was the condition we had at the very beginning. So what do you do when you have this kind of space and you want to make this collage of action, photography, theater, movie theater, and of course techno? You need a bar. But the bar was not warm enough for the winter that was upcoming. And so the necessity of having a warm spot to stay made us to think about a very basic idea. What about having a bubble filled with warm air and the rest is cold? So these were the launch of our place that was very experimental at the beginning. We wanted to do something different every week. And then at the end, it was too much what we wanted to do with this rhythm. So we started to print also our homemade flyer with the photocopy machines. And where is the mic? And at the end, what we had was a kind of techno club. So we come from the underground culture.
Come over here. 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 Hot boys, don't you want me to nice? Have you ever heard about a woman named Fantastique? I got a lusty proposition that I know will suffice. Lately lay out the conditions that no one has. I wanna take you home, get you satisfied. Drunk out sex or however you fly. Just one thing I can't compromise. I wanna see you working, God oh God. I wanna see you boys get down for joy. I wanna see you do a little nasty work. Just one thing I can't compromise. I wanna see you working, God oh God, oh God, oh God.
So thank you, Peaches. And after 10 years of parties, of course, we want to move on. And 2001 came, and our odyssey had to move from Berlin somewhere else. At that time, it was the first time that you could have the possibility to fly around Europe with very few budget. So the goal was to get a bubble of 20 kilo, not to pay the over price. And the ventilator is also 20 kilograms, so with these two bags we started to travel around. And at the beginning we always thought that the goal was to do something really site-specific. We just wanted to create something thought for a certain spot. And at the same time we were facing the tunnel of poverty. So we were really poor. Actually, I was terribly poor until the moment that I don't believe in God, but there was some guy in US probably that on Thursday, the 7th of September 2006, published this blog, The Cool Hunter, and suddenly I started to receive a lot of emails, telephone calls from different countries of the world, and so we could start to make bigger projects. It was the internet probably, or something else, or the fate. Anyhow, it is air which makes inflatable, not plastic and not God. Afterwards, 2012.
At the time flight, and now we are in 2012 when I actually discovered him. I was living in Finland, in Helsinki, and I had a project for this world design capital. In 2012 it was Helsinki, and my project was chosen to be installed in this statue in the middle center of Helsinki. And in summer, this statue, I don't know if you know, there's like a May Day, a huge party, and everyone's drinking a lot, enjoying the beginning of the summer. And in winter time, it was just empty, and there's not even water, of course, in the fountain. And the fountain was just staying still very sad. And my project was to make it bring summer in winter, so we could have sand inside as if it's a beach, and then put the hot air, and people could somehow enjoy the warm weather. So I had this idea. Actually, the idea came from this poetic idea of bring summer and winter, and my colleague, that time I was working in architecture office in Finland, and he said, yeah, if the idea is so light and poetic, it shouldn't be a heavy material, heavy structure pavilion. And he was like, yeah, do you know there is this pneumatic architecture, and maybe you could use this way of making insulation. And I found him through internet, and I sent him email, like, are you interested in collaboration? And he was like, yeah, sure. And I flew to Berlin, and that's how we met each other. The project actually got cancelled because the sponsor they had a financial problem. But since then we became the best friends and working together. But after 4 years, we got the email from Helsinki Design Week that they wanted to invite us to have an installation. And this time, this statue that I wanted to have was not available because the other artists used this statue for other artistic installation. So we had to choose something else, and we found this amazing statue also in the center of Helsinki. in front of a huge shopping mall called Stockmann. Actually, it's a nice location where the tram and buses and the crowd of people are crossing and really busy street. Still, people could meet around the statue, so it was a meeting point for people. And we wanted to somehow give homage to these three blacksmith statue, which represent the hard labor when Finland had a financial crisis. So there are two of us running inside. I don't know why we were running. I think there was like TV interviews like, why don't you just run around? And we were running, making the circle. So in this installation, there were many things you could do, like concerts, seminar, workshop, presentation, or just a meeting point for the local people. So it was 1 week Helsinki Design Week. Actually, at the same time, we did the workshop with the Art University in other location, like 500 meters from this center. So 2 installations were going on at the same time.
I think it's interesting to point that I messed it up. That this constellation of pneumatic architecture only works with a statue. So this is a real site-specific project because it doesn't work without a statue.
That's true. I mean, we went there, I think, 1 or twice to measure the statue, measure the square, and I don't know if we have an inside view. Without statue, it really doesn't work because we fixed the installation around this pedestal of statue. So in the end, this is a site-specific installation. We couldn't actually use it for somewhere else because it was meant to be really fixed on this statue.
It was too site-specific, yeah. Probably like this one, no?
Yeah, like this one. This one we couldn't use it again because the organizer didn't send us back our installation and ventilator. They just, I don't know what.
The Italians are the worst.
They were very mean.
But the Greek were the best.
Yeah. Greek one was the best because the Greek architect was the artistic director or the curator of this Venice pavilion. Yeah, who invited us. Amazing guy. So this Blurry Venice was for 2019 Venice Art Biennale. We made imaginary landscape as if, Venice was found on the swamp or on water. We wanted to imagine this Venice, there is no wall, nor ceiling, nor floor, then you lose your balance and equilibrium inside when you're inside. And there are many materiality that Stelios Kois wanted to try, water and marble, wood and bricks. And if you see these columns, it looks like it's a wood, it's a bricole in Venice where they mark where the boat can go, like mark the level of the water. It looks like wood, but it's actually made of marble by Fabio Viale, this Italian sculptor that we collaborated with. Initial idea was that, so there's inside and outside of the space, and people could be observer and performer at the same time, that people can be outside of the installation or it can be inside. But again, with the organization, we had a problem that the audience cannot be outside of the installation. So in the end, people could walk through the tunnel, experiencing this space. So this was supposed to be where people could walk on water. very site-specific for this pavilion. It was meant to be, and without this bricole wooden sculpture, it wouldn't also exist either. So it was very good collaboration with Fabio.
Yeah, and other cooperations, we had a lot of them, and maybe one of the more, we didn't start to make sculpture ourselves out of marble, but because of a project in the Netherlands, we came to the idea to make performances. Everything started with an invitation from Kees Luis. He is the art director of the Euro Festival, takes every year on an island in the Netherlands. It's a pure performing art festivals, and every stage is site-specific. And he made also a kind of collage, joining us with Lena Robana, that are a choreographer from Amsterdam. And we kept visiting the location many times and exchanged ideas many times. And then we had this result that actually was merging both our visions. And it worked so well that at the end you forgot who did what. So it becomes a composition of different subjects. The start was like this. Imagine an island with a lot of wind. It's the worst place to set a bubble. So you search for something more protected, like a forest, and indeed you have it. And once you have a forest, you need to have a stage. Then you find a kind of square. But the square, it was problematic because it was a larger square in the forest we found, but we had the G problem. The G problem was a tree that was in the middle of the stage, and we didn't want to cut it down, also because it's a natural park and we would have got a lot of problems. On the left side you had the blackberries that are very, very sharp, and an oak was growing. I mean, if you see that landscape in winter time, you can imagine that in springtime it will change a lot. So we measured all the trees, and then we had a very simple solution that offered like different stages. A more extroversion one, transparent, a more introverted. So between being introverted and extroverted, you have a ring that is connected to two different parts of your being. And as a visitor, you're free to go around. So you're free to change your mood between extroverted, introverted, or being even part of the ring. And if you're really pissed off about everything, you can go outside.
That's the best.
And every time you move yourself, you have a different perception of the performance, because you have 4 performers and 3 musicians, and they're also walking. Besides that, you have the weather, and the weather is always changing on an island, and the weather affects the sound very much. If it is raining, if it is stormy, if it is sunny, and then you have the birds, and every performance so could be a bit different than the other one. So every spectator had a different impression of it. By going between the left and right, the circle, this is the inner circle.
The point was that the performance was happening at the same time in 3 different bubbles and outside as well. So if you are sitting somewhere, you are missing something else, what's happening. So wherever you are missing something, and you are just frustrated.
It's always like this.
Yeah.
We are missing something now.
Yeah.
This was the introverted part. And it's something in between art and architecture. And this is the video of the project. So people can be outside when it's very warm, or they go inside when it's very rainy. In this case, it's very warm. Huh?
Journeys over consecutive seasons, over the years, the curious years, each emerging from that which proceeded through journeys, as with companions, namely their diverse phases, forward steppers from the latent unrealized baby days, journeyers gaming with their own youth, journeyers with their bearded and well-grazed manhood, journeyers with their womanhood, ample unsurpassed content, journeyers with their own sublime old age of manhoods and womanhoods, old age called expanded, brought with them all the breaths of the universe, old age flowing free with the nation, freedom of death.
So it was a site-specific project for that island, but maybe it comes later that we used the same bubble in other cities and other locations.
But more than that, that we wanted really to do performances as well.
Yeah, it's coming. And then, as you all know, in 2020 something happened that it crashed our crashed our life, because I mean our work is supposed to be in public space, and we couldn't be in public space. And on top of that, in Berlin, in the beginning of pandemic, it was especially hard for me as an Asian, because I could really feel that people hate me on the street, and I was a little bit afraid to get out, because one day on the way to work in the tram, I got sprayed with a deo spray, as if I should be disinfected, and actually nobody was helping me or anything. And since then I felt like and he called the police. Since then I was like, oh, I really don't want to be outside in the square where I used to work and so on. And I've been thinking, then how can I protect myself, and also how do I protect the other one from my virus, like potential virus. And also at the same time in New York, they said the doctors and nurses are lacking personal protective equipment. And we were thinking, you know what we are doing is actually the negative pressure room, where the doctors make surgery normally. So the air goes in and excessive air goes out. So they're inside, the space is always clean air. So we created this little doctor's space where they can maybe relax from patients, and they can maybe do the COVID test. and so on, so on, so on.
So the basis, the air comes always from a spot that is unreachable for most of the humans. So if you put a ventilator on top of this building and you inflate your bubble, probably you will have no virus inside the bubble.
That was an amazing idea. Actually, we got contact from like a French governmental organization. They want to have like 1,000 pieces of this, 10,000, so that they can create like a mobile hospital. In the end, I think they went for like a more safe option with using wood and windproof. And from that point, so I was busy with this how to protect myself. And Marco was depressed because he couldn't meet anyone, and he's a very social person, unlike me. And then he was just sitting in the sofa, and he was like, I want to have bubble in my head. Like, forget this other people. I want my bubble. And like, you know what? It's a really good idea. Let's do it. And then we bought this half sphere, transparent half sphere, from this hobby store in Berlin, and we started to make our own protection. Is called iSphere, and we share this tutorial that anybody can make. It's very easy. You just buy the 2 half sphere, transparent, and you tape together and turn it and cut the bottom for your neck. And we got a lot of emails, still people saying, where can we buy this half sphere? And like, yeah, there's a shop called Modular in Berlin, yeah, but in other countries they don't have it, and it was a big problem.
And it was more funny. We got once an email from Bolivia, I think, and it was a publication where they said, the German solution for the COVID. First, we are not Germans. For a second, it was a joke.
It was a funny joke.
Sehr geehrte Fahrgäste, gemeinsam gegen Corona. Abstand halten, Mund und Nase bedecken. Pflicht ab Montag.
This was the day as it was, we were obliged to wear a face mask on the public transport in Berlin.
Everybody was so confused. What should we do now? We should wear a mask?
Abstand halten. Corona.
It's something like half an hour. 3 persons. We edited maybe 2 hours and that's it. We are busy editing.
Good.
So thanks to our media artist friend Marco Barotti, who filmed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco.
We shouldn't mention. And from that point we developed, since we had so much time to think and nothing to do, we developed this idea how to develop, since we got inspired from this Auto Festival Loud Shadow, we wanted to do our own performance. And that time, actually, my husband had a dream, I don't know why. He was like, yeah, I had a dream last night and I wake up and it's so vivid. I was installing a bubble on the light pole, and I could also connect the electricity with the what is the Steckdose?
Steckdose.
Yeah, the plug into the light, and the ventilator I could connect it as well in the light pole. I was like, wow.
Without paying the electricity.
Yeah. So from that point also, like, wow, this is an amazing idea. We combined with the iSphere and this idea of living in public space. So you change this idea of staying home to stay out. So at certain point in the future, maybe the time comes that we cannot stay home because the home is contaminated now. Then where do we live? We have to live outside in the public space. Then we can have a nice little mobile home, a bubble home. But it has to be transparent because the government should control what you do in public space. So the new project came out called Stay Out, and we wanted to have several performers who are performing our obsessions, which we developed, everyone developed during the COVID time.
Our loneliness.
Yeah, the loneliness. I was feeling very comfortable because I like to be alone.
It was fucked up.
For you, it was really difficult.
The other point was for the first time we started to make applications for different applications. No, we had a lot, so everybody was doing applications alone in their own isolation. And we even thought to make an application for performing arts, and the funny thing is that we got it.
And I started to perform as well. So I studied architecture. I never did the performance, but somehow I was like, oh, why not? I can be in one of these bubbles, and I can perform myself, asocial. So we got the funding, and we found a nice location in Berlin by Alexanderplatz called Haus der Statistik.
It's one of the most important projects in Berlin right now because they wanted to demolish this house, which belongs to the DDR. They demolished almost everything from the DDR, so the German Democratic Republic, to build another hotel, and it's just in the city next to Alexanderplatz. And this house now will become a place for culture and ateliers and flip upload. It's a project started from two organizations, two groups. One is Ramlabo Berlin and the other one is ZKU.
Yeah. So this is the paper that we had to apply for the permission to the city. That, okay, we want to have a bubble here and there in front of this building. It was very difficult to get the permission, even though we got the money from the state. They didn't want to let us do anything.
Since it was our first performance, we exaggerated too much. We made it 4 hours. It was a mistake, probably. So if you start to work in performing arts, don't do it 4 hours. I think it's better to do it 50 minutes or even 40. She's the controller, she's the state. Everybody has to be alone. If you misbehave, she smokes you. She fills the bubble with smoke. She has the power to see everything. But she's also alienated. Home office, Amazon, and the asocial in a young.
So I was painting my bubble to black so that nobody can see me, because it started as a transparent and at the end it became totally black. But still I wanted to see some people, and I was just taking the paint out and snake out.
Modern Penelope.
Huh? What?
Penelope?
Ah, yeah.
So she's a Greek woman.
Nice.
She's making home office. Actually, she's doing nothing. She's delivering Amazon boxes to our consumer. She gets nothing out of plastic. And she dreams of holiday.
I'm getting sick of having holidays too. And at the end, everyone goes really crazy from your obsession, and
After a few hours.
after 3-4 hours, you really go crazy. You want to just get out, and at the end, we get out.
We wanted to play these 4 hours to be sure to have this border between day and night.
So we get out, but we have to wear an ice sphere when we get out. And that's the first time we see each other, our neighbor. so strange to see other human beings somehow. That's what happened. And from there we continued. The same concepts stay out, like somewhere between isolation and communication, but it's actually totally different performance, I would say.
And they offered us to have a stage during the festival. And we had it during 10 days, and we were surprisingly fully booked. But this time we were clever, we did 1 hour and 15 minutes.
This time I was not asocial, I was actually very social as a guide. I had to guide 50 people, so people could book 1 hour, but only 50 people could follow me as a tour, parkour.
The tour was chosen, so you follow the guide, which is Yena. You start from the volcano. The volcano is, of course, the earth, and you go with her to the woods.
In the beginning, I was not sure if I can lead 50 people, but everyone really followed me and do what I do. They were like, somehow strange. People follow you. And I was just stopping each station where the residents of the forest are, our performers.
And they're facing different situations. Maybe this is the strongest one about isolation. That
she was isolated, and not only that, she got vacuumed.
And smoked at the same time.
She was in pain.
So she doesn't survive a status of isolation. Differently than the egg, it stays in the egg. And at the beginning and at the end, we meet each other in the volcano where there is a concert.
So in the beginning, people don't enter this volcano structure, and at the end, so in the beginning, they only receive the ice sphere. The audience are wearing this ice sphere, and at the end, when they enter this volcano, they finally take off their bubble. So it's about when you are wearing this little bubble on your head, you are somehow in yourself, so individual, but with in the community, because you are following all together.
It's a bit cheesy, I confess, but
yeah. And then at the end, they take off the ice sphere, and then in the one bubble, they are somehow back in the community, and when they get out of the bubble, they are back into themselves, go home.
And now the last story
of the double heart that we are doing here.
So do you remember, as I told you, we like to do science-specific installation? I was wrong. And it's cool to be wrong, I think. It's, you have character, right? You have to admit that you were completely wrong. Because actually, you faced it, we had too many bubbles at a certain moment, and I mean, how many bubbles you want to have? You have a lot of bubbles in your head by itself, and our lager, our stock is quite big, but still it's very messy, so the idea is maybe we can reuse what we had and change the content. So the previous work was the end of 2019, before the tragedy of COVID, where we invited Biennale Bratislava to make a kind of a light installation, and then everything got stopped. And in between, we had a phone call from our friend Dennis Schneck, that is working in the movies, and at that time was also a hard time for him because they were not shooting much. But still, we got a little job to survive in Prague. They were supposed to make an art exhibition in Vienna in the movie. So the same bubble was used to be our first main exhibition in a huge space. That was a kind of sun changing all the time until someone got killed in the audience.
Just to explain, before the video that we showed before, the only outer bubble is the same as outer bubble of this scene.
But also the same as this one.
They look very different. Where they are, that makes really difference.
This is more sculptural. It was squeezed between 8 trees in Copenhagen in May or April. And in August, we wanted to support a group called Berlin Autofrei. They want to get the private cars out of the city and have a city free of cars. So we tried to use the bubble as a budget, so a garbage bag, and filled it with cars, and may having a comparison how much space you need for 10 cars and how much people would be in that space. Because it's not only about having a city without cars. The point is that every private car that is parked on the city is using our public space, which also belongs to us. And they take approximately between 10 and 12 square meters, which is quite a lot, I think. And in Berlin, it's possible to live without using a private car, and so we wanted to support the demonstration. And that's the end of the story.
Finally, the same bubble arrived here, I mean, outer one.
With our heart, that is something, it's a very basic experience by measuring the pulse of two people in front of each other. Our hearts are different, the pulse is different, but we still can find a way to have a melody between them. And I think it's a very simple way to be friendly to each other. This without too large political context, and
actually, you didn't mention the heart one was also from other project, which was in Taipei,
in London, and in Moscow. In Moscow. Polytech Festival in Gorky Park in Moscow. It was very good, amazing people, all against Putin. One of the curator escaped, and another guy that I know quite well is in Moscow is terrorized. And but it started in London with Marco Barotti in such a gallery. First was only one heart. And then in Moscow we had a workshop, and we thought, I think 2 hearts is better. Then we have a kind of techno beat, maybe. And this depends about the heart. If it is not a techno beat, it's somehow kind of more complicated beat. And then we had it in Taipei, but we couldn't go there. So this installation that you had here was the first time I visited. We didn't see. We just had the instructions, and they did it quite good. And this was the first time that we saw this new assemble. And we had good ideas to change it further. And the last thing that we want to tell you before you ask us what we do with the plastic and how bad we are for the environmental issue is that the installation we had here outdoor fits in this box of 120 by 80 by 80. And I think it's quite small. Actually, to be honest, we put the floor on top of it because it was wet. But for the...
I mean, the first, we shouldn't use plastic, that's for sure. But it is our working medium, more than air and plastic. So the best way to use it is reuse as many as you can, which we are doing. I think with this outer transparent bubble, we've been traveling more than 6-7 locations already. And after they somehow change the content, we are trying. And somehow it's sustainable, and some people or organization, they prefer that way because it's more sustainable. And at a certain point, the time comes that they die. I mean, it's not true that plastic lasts forever. We have a mouse in our storage, and they actually eat plastic. It's just disappearing. And yeah, we found a way to recycle it, to melt it into filament for 3D printer. So we work with the Swiss institution who makes this filament for us, which we should print. It's quite recent thing.